September 21, 2024. Feast of Saint Matthew, Apostle and Evangelist. A reading from the letter of Saint Paul to the Ephesians. Brethren, I, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling, to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to the one hope that belongs to your call, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. But grace was given to each one of us according to the measure of Christ's gift. And he gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds and teachers, to equip the saints, for the work of ministry, for building up the body of Christ, until we all attain to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, to mature manhood, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. The word of the Lord. Responsorial Psalm Response. Their sound goes forth through all the earth. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims the work of his hands. Day unto day conveys the message, and night unto night imparts the knowledge. Their sound goes forth through all the earth. No speech, no word, whose voice goes unheeded. Their sound goes forth through all the earth. Their message to the utmost bounds of the world. Their sound goes forth through all the earth. Alleluia, alleluia. We praise you, O God, we acclaim you as Lord, the glorious company of apostles praise you. Alleluia. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax booth, and he said to him, "Follow me." And he rose and followed him. And as Jesus reclined at table in the house, behold, many tax collectors and sinners came and were reclining with Jesus and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when he heard it, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means, I desire mercy, and not sacrifice. For I came not to call the righteous, but sinners." The Gospel of the Lord. Reflection. Feast of Saint Matthew, Apostle Evangelist. Jesus seems to have had a great capacity to see good in people who usually would have been written off by others, especially by those who took their religious faith seriously. Matthew is an example of such a person. He was a tax collector, somebody who worked for the Romans and who was presumed to be taking more money in taxes from the ordinary people than was necessary. As long as the tax collector gave the Romans what they were expecting, he could keep for himself anything collected over and above that figure. When it came to tax collectors, there was a presumption of dishonesty. Those who were careful to keep the demands of the Jewish law would certainly have considered them sinners, who had placed themselves beyond the scope of God's love. However, Jesus looked at people like Matthew with very different eyes, more as a doctor would look on people who are ill and in need of healing. Jesus brought people like Matthew, those labeled sinners, within the scope of God's love, by eating with them, proclaiming the reign of God's love to them, inviting and empowering them to live as God's beloved sons and daughters. He even called some of them, like Matthew, to form part of his inner circle, the 12. The story of Matthew reminds us that the Lord does not keep his distance from us just because we are not all we could be. Rather, the Lord sees the good in us that we often fail to see in ourselves. He is constantly coming towards us, inviting us into the embrace of God's love. The healing power of God's love can then empower us to live the kind of life that Paul outlines in our first reading, bearing with one another charitably, in complete selflessness, gentleness, and patience.